morning. My name is Sara. I'm one of the ministers here at Colonial Church. The Monday Meditations are an opportunity for us to be able to begin our weeks rooted in God's love, with things for us to meditate upon as we breathe in God's Spirit together. This morning, in the year of our good neighbor, welcome you to my neighborhood. Indeed, won't you be my neighbor? So glad to be with you. And this morning, I wanted to give us an invitation to consider. In the midst of a global pandemic or any challenging time, our brains are hardwired to help us survive. Part of this God-given survival capacity allows us to employ what psychologists call our fight, flight, or freeze responses. It's where instead of operating out of our frontal cortex, our brains go back to the back of our brain and just respond to help us survive. Now, there's a lot to be grateful for in the fact that our brains know how to help us survive. And yet the reality is, we don't want to just survive. As people who are called to be the church, we want to live from the frontal part of our brains, the brains that God gave humans to help us make moral decisions, to help us to truly be good neighbors, to help us be the church. It's probably the reason, go figure, that time and time again throughout the Bible, we read God saying to God's people, don't be afraid, right? Don't be afraid. Because anytime we breathe deeply, it takes us from the back of our brain while we're trying to survive and moves us up here to a place where we can be rooted in the God who sustains us, the great I am. This breath and this movement from the survival part to the frontal part of our brains is what allows us to be good neighbors. And this, my friends, is why in this year of the good neighbor, we've decided to end our spring series focusing on grace actually. Because grace actually is the reminder that we have so much for which to be grateful. It's the invitation to us to remember that the God who was and is sustains us. Grace actually is what allows us to truly love our neighbors and keep on breathing. That's why for this week, I want to invite you to do a couple things. One is to look for evidence of grace. It's all around us, everywhere, from the sun in the sky, to the birds, to the tulips, to the fact that you have breath. Grace actually is holding you right now. The second thing I want us to do is to breathe more deeply. Ready? Like right now. And as we do that, let's remember and live into that invitation that God has given us to not be afraid. And even more so, as Jesus invites us to cast our cares upon him, for God cares for us. So we're going to notice grace. We're going to breathe deeply, remembering to cast all of our need and fear and worry on God. And then the third thing, let us do. Let us be a people who walk around looking for those signs of grace and being that kind of grace to one another and to all of our neighbors. This morning, I wanted to leave you with a poem from one of our own beloved community members, Tracy Mooty. It's a poem including pictures that she has written from walks about her neighborhood, on the lookout for grace, remembering the God who was and is, who sustains us. So may grace actually meet you. May grace actually sustain you. And may you breathe deeply the love of the God who casts out fear.
Woven together. As I venture out to walk this morning, more grateful for the gift of breath than I can describe, I make a promise to carefully tuck inside my jacket each heartfelt greeting, all the gestures of kindness, every show of solidarity. I also make sure to gather the laughter from the children as they skip by, as well as the spirited exchanges between walking partners, and even the exuberant bounding of so many happy dogs. Of course, I can't forget to include each hopeful sign of spring. Buds and birds and breezes showing off so much that my jacket and my heart nearly burst from all the goodness. As I return home to nestle in, I can hardly wait to rush to my table, throw open my jacket, and let that great flood of sunshine come tumbling out. All the sights and sounds of this glorious day, to which I bow in grateful reverence, and then begin to prayerfully weave each precious piece into what soon becomes a blanket of hope, of healing, of well-being that I will keep close at hand to gently cradle every story of unspeakable pain and loss I hear today, so it can be enfolded by the warmth, embraced by the light, and blessed by the love of our caring community.